We're here with another episode of Heim Time with Amanda Dusenberry from Veterans United. Amanda, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Today we're going to talk about the exciting topic of THDA.
All right.
So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it's super exciting.
Super exciting. So, all right. So let's kind of talk about interest rates beginning in November in 2023. Kind of not interest rates, but kind of current market where we're at, right? So if we look at, I do a market report every week. So covering Montgomery, Cheatham, Robertson, Stewart counties, kind of upper middle Tennessee here. We have 1,500 homes, right at 1,500 homes active on the market. You know, median price is right around $370,000. But things are still moving because we had 133 homes that went under contract last week, and we had an additional 94 that have closed. And that's pretty much been, no matter what's going on in the market over the last 3-4 months,
right?
It's kind of a consistent there. So things are still moving. So like I've said in the past, what people are saying is global is not happening local. There's still some movement in the market there. But today I just really wanted to get your insight on interest rates today, what that looks like, and then from a THDA lens for that. So if you can start with interest rates, what's going on there?
So interest rates are, it's going to vary a lot. Back a couple years ago, we would quote the lowest rate at no cost. No origination, no discount, but that was when the rates were in the 2% range. And so now it really varies because sellers are willing to pay some closing cost, and so they're willing to pay cost to buy the rate down for the buyer. And so you're seeing rates anywhere between 8, which is what like you just said a while ago, global, the fear, everybody's yelling 8% rates.
They got to sell some media spots.
Right. Yeah. 8% down to even like 5.99.
Right.
So depending on the cost, I've had somebody lock in a 5.99 rate in the past week. So
Beautiful.
Did it cost money? Yes. Was the seller willing to pay some of it? Yes. The buyer had some money to pay down. I think if you look back a couple of years ago when there was just low inventory and buyers were having to pay overpriced to get to the house. They were going to pay $30,000-$40,000 out of price, overpriced. I think if they would have had the option to not pay that and take a little higher rate, they would have done that.
Which would have equated in probably a few $100s, right?
Right.
It's I'm not coming out of pocket $40,000. It's costing me a little bit more there.
Right.
Well, in your professional opinion, and what do you? To you, in your many years of being in lending, right? What do you see as kind of a balanced, healthy interest rate range?
Well, I'll probably get hate for this one. I think the 2% rates were an anomaly.
I do too.
And
many other analysts out there do.
Yeah. So I think, when you're in the 5, 6, 7% range, that's normal interest rates. The hard part is, prices have gone up. And so when you have higher rates and higher costs, that makes the payments, sometimes not affordable. But there are options. There are good options out there. So one of the programs that I wanted to talk about was the THDA program.
Right.
There's been a lot of changes with that. That's the down payment assistance program for the state of Tennessee. A couple of things that have changed recently with it. And you can do the home ownership for the heroes, which is 6.875 rate. So keep in mind, THDA is not a loan program. It's a grant program. And so it's actually coupled with VA, FHA, right? And so you're not getting a THDA loan. You're getting a VA loan with the THDA grant, or you're getting an FHA loan with the THDA grant.
In the jargon in the industry, that's called a overlay, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Essentially. Yep. So if somebody hears, hey, they have an overlay of this or overlay of that, that just means that that's their set of guidelines on top of that loan, on top of that FHA, VA
correct
loan program. Okay.
So you can get, today, let's say you were based on your credit score, let's say you're at an 8% rate, but you can do THDA. Well, now you're at a 6.875 and there's no cost for that. Right. To buy down that rate. That's just what the rate is. And that home ownership for heroes is not just active duty anymore or, prior service. That is our first responders also. So it's a really great program.
That's good.
The other thing that's changed with it as well, that by the way, the normal THD rate is 7.375 right now.
As of today, and that fluctuates as all interest rates do by day. So as a recording of this, those are the interest rates as of today.
Correct. And that does not have the APR there, just the rate.
Yeah.
So the other thing that's changed is up until recently, the max sales price for THDA was $300,000, and we all know that that's really a hard price to find under $300,000.
Yeah.
So they've raised that to $400,000.
Nice.
Yep. And in addition to that, the income limits used to be based on total household income. So if you had one of your kids failure to launch, still living with you.
Hopefully, I don't know how it never happened to my. We're becoming that multifamily households. We're seeing more of that.
I have a couple adult children still living with me for a few. Anyways,
get out.
Right. But anyways, if you have a child in your household, or adult or not, that's making an income, you had to count that income in your income limit.
Previous guidelines you did, yeah.
Yep. But now whoever's on the loan, so if you have one of the, husband or wife on the loan, or whoever, that's the only income you have to count in that limit. So that's really opened it up to a lot more people.
That makes a huge difference. And I do want to spend a little bit of time on that just to land that point, because before you would have, let's say you have an elderly, or you're taking care of mother-in-law or whatever it is, some other member that's over the age of 18, you had to count that because that was their primary residence.
Correct.
Right? So whether they were related to you or not, you had to count that. They've removed that, which to your point frees up a lot of people. So multi-generational, you got roommate situations, you got all of these different situations that could benefit, and it opens up. It's a great program, and I know that's had an evolution. I know years I've been in real estate, it's that program has constantly changed there. So those are two really big pieces: the raising of that ceiling to 400,000, and that removing the total household incomes is pretty
it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll tell you is with these changes, THDA has gotten a lot busier.
They have.
And so you definitely want to allow a little extra time. There for a while, a THDA loan could close in the same amount of time as a normal transaction, 30 days or so.
Yeah.
But I would definitely allow 45 to 60 on it now, just because of the approval time.
Yeah, I had one that was 60, we were at 45 days and it pushed, or we were at like 30 days and it pushed. We just closed it 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
So, in a meeting I was at recently, THDA was actually they were there, a representative from THDA was there, and they said that this year it was 348 applications to date that they've come through, and that's double than any time since the start of their program.
Isn't that great?
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. And it is definitely putting a some flex on, or some strain on the system.
It's a little they're behind, but they're great. We're able to we have some great contacts there. We're able to reach out and talk to them and run different scenarios by them, kind of check on the status of the underwriting. So we still kind of keep up with, we know which day they're working on. Each day we get an update, so we can kind of track and project.
Yeah, and I know they started a fast track program, I believe, as well. Right? Where if you, as a lender, if you put in, if everything's tight with everything, they're just going to give a thumbs up versus waiting for that to go into queue and through. So.
I want to say that the fast track was running roughly a week.
Yeah.
The other was running a couple of weeks. Yeah.
Easily. Yeah. So we covered qualifications, we covered delays there in the system, the types of THDA. There's a great choice, a hero and a price assist there. So one of the things on that, right, the price assist versus the, before with the grant program, it was X amount of dollars that you had to take. So we now you're seeing VA, right, buyers that are then jumping on the THDA because it's also bringing that
interest rate down. Yeah. And you can actually do it without taking any money from THDA. So you can just utilize the program without the grant. So there's two. There's a $6,000 grant or there's a 6% of the sales price. And so you can actually if you have a home that you found and you're military and you don't have a down payment, you have seller paying closing costs, you don't have to take that money. So there's no lien, there's no money owed, and you just get the lower rate. So it's a great benefit.
Yeah, because that loan program it's a grant, but there's stipulations to it where you have to stay in the house, primary residence, obviously.
Correct.
Stay in the house for so long. And if you sell that property, then you're paying a percentage of that back.
Correct. And if you're not making much on the house, you're not paying much back. But you definitely want to go over all that with your lender and get those specifics.
Yeah, definitely something to think about there. So, something we talked about recently in another video was, monthly payments, and in this case we put buying a car versus buying a house, and what that car payment, or hey, I want to trade this in and do this, how that affects your debt ratios. You want to hit on that a little
Sure. Bit? Yeah. Worst case would be you're buying a house and you buy a car at the same time. Don't do that.
You don't do that. or go buy some furniture.
Right. Don't do that either.
And credit.
If let's say you were getting a car loan and the car loan was $600 a month. I used a lower one last time we talked, but that's not realistic now with the way prices are. But let's say $600 a month. That's if you don't buy that car and you keep the car you have that's paid off, then that $600 a month that you're not paying to a car can equate to $80,000-$90,000 more on a house.
It's insane, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big difference. Yeah. And I don't think people are aware of that. And I don't think that they're, I think they're just really taught based on, you can get this lower car payment, and they go off a monthly payment and not long-term how it will impact them. Right. So I think that if you even have the notion that you want to buy a house, before you change anything on any other debt, make sure and talk with your lender, and they can look at the big picture. Maybe you can buy a car and still qualify fine, but it's good to know you don't want to knock yourself out of qualifying based on a poor decision at the time.
Yeah, look at it and say, okay, in the next 24 months, what do I plan to do with my life? And if it's buy a car, if it's that, or buy a house, it's just roll through those numbers.
That's right. What was that statistic that you said last time we did this? It had to do with when people start thinking about buying.
Oh, okay.
Versus.
Yeah. So we'll say 6 or 7 years ago, the average person from when these are NAR statistics as well. So National Association of Realtors statistics. Can never say that word right. It was stats. Cool word, right? The cool people word. So it was 6 to 9 months from when somebody started looking online. Right. 96% of people started looking online for a house. Imagine that.
Right.
6 to 9 months till they close. Now that latest is 18 to 24 months.
Wow.
So you definitely see that long term. Just in the last 5 or 6 years, it's almost doubled. So having those conversations out.
Yes.
What we like to do is, hey, let's sit down and just build a strategic plan.
Yes.
And go, okay, what do you want to do? What does that look like for you over the next 1, 2, 3 years? Build that plan out and go, okay, here's what I want to do. Because it's amazing how many times when we put something on paper, right? How many times things come to fruition faster than you think.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And it just makes a difference there with that stuff. So,
well, when you said that, I love that because a lot of times I talk to clients and they say, I'm not planning on buying until next year, so I don't waste your time. That's never a waste of time. Nope. And being a year out is so beneficial to them to just see where they stand. If they might need to correct something on credit, they might need to pay off a debt, and you might catch it right before tax refund money. There's all kinds of timing there that you really have to take into consideration, and we don't care how far out it is.
Right.
We prefer the further out, the better.
Right. Yeah, I had a client that we spoke to the other day, and she said, we were at new construction, right? And she came through our open house there, and she said, well, don't worry about it because I'm 14 months out. I'm retiring in 14 months. And the conversation we had on site was like, you're the perfect client because you know what you want in 14 months. And she was thinking about building, right? So people think building is out of their wheelhouse. It's not. right?
No.
That's something that you could talk to them about as well, right? We walk through that strategic plan, right? What do you want to do? Where do you want to build? All that kind of stuff, right? And pull that in. But to your point, it's easier to have those conversations on the front end because okay, world's your oyster, right?
Right.
What do you want to do?
Right.
Okay, let's figure that out, and then
Well,
let's go figure it out with you.
There's nothing worse than having somebody call you when they have 2 weeks to get out of a property and they have no good options. That's hard. So I'd much rather they call ahead of time and get a plan, and we'd be glad to help to kind of see what's best way to do that.
So here's the $1 million question I want your lender response. People say we're just going to wait till the rates come down.
What if they don't?
What if they don't?
I have been investing in real estate since I was 19. I built my first house when I was 19. My dad was a builder, so I kind of cheated on that one. But I have never lost in real estate. Like I've flipped homes. I've kept them as rental properties. Of course, you have the occasional,
tenant that.
Yeah, one of those.
But that is not the majority.
No, it's not.
It's not.
You get a good property manager and you set it up. So I think there's never a bad time to buy real estate. And this is not a ad for my mortgage side. This is just me personally with my experience. There's never been a bad time. I bought homes during COVID at the top of the market. I bought at the bottom of the market, and I've done well on all of them. So,
right. Because looking at I'll add to that. Looking again, I was speaking with a buyer the other day. They were his first time home buying, like early 30s, right? They're just we just want to buy a house. Like we're at that point where we just do something like cool. Another stat for you. Average age in the U.S. right now is 36, where people are buying their first house.
Okay.
It was 26. It's now moved. That pin has moved 10 years just because all the factors, right?
If you go back 30 years when I was young. 16. I'm just kidding.
19, evidently.
Yeah.
Overachiever. But that was that's the conversation, is that if you're getting into real estate and you're looking at that, right? If you look across, I think it's 80% of millionaires, real estate's in their portfolio, and there's a reason for that, right? It's something to hold that against. And trust me, I've told more people it's not the right time. Like, let's figure it out. I don't
think that the right time's based on the market. I think it's based on the individual person.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think that there are times where it is not the right time for somebody to buy a home.
Correct.
And it's because of their particular situation. And when that happens, I tell them that, just like you would tell them that. But I think that to say, I'm going to wait for this or I'm going to wait for that, a lot of people will get pre-approved and they say, well, I'm just going to wait. And then they end up finding a house in the next 30 days because they realize there are buy down options. You can get a lower rate in
short-term and long-term buy down options.
Correct. Most of the ones you're seeing they're not taking the short-term option. They're taking the permanent 30-year option because you got to think about it. Everybody's talking about, which I know you're probably going to discuss maybe refinancing at some point, but if people go, okay, I'm going to buy now at this higher rate and I'm going to wait till rates drop and then I'm going to refinance, there's costs associated with refinancing, and you're going to roll that back into your loan. Some people are paying that money now to get that lower rate now. And then, if rates drop, they don't have to refinance. They've already bought it down. Yeah.
And that does answer another question, right? Everyone is waiting to refinance. That kind of stuff. What does that look like?
It's going to be mass chaos if rates drop.
And as we see, right, since the 70s, since they really started tracking home values and stuff, we've seen, dips and valleys, right? Everybody talks about 08, everything that happened there, right? The compression in the market, all that kind of stuff. But historically speaking, from then till now, every year it's been about a 4% appreciation in home values, right? So if you look at that sliding scale, so you have, if I'm waiting a year and my interest rate comes down by 2% and the home value appreciates on that scale at 4%.
Right.
Am I really winning?
Right.
Right. to your point, if it's not the right time, have that conversation. Have that conversation with, a realtor, a lender to say, okay, what does this look like for me?
Well, I'll tell you, on the refinance side, as soon as rates drop 0.5%, there's going to be lenders just blowing up people wanting to refinance them. And I really want to challenge people to do your due diligence, because there's so much cost. People will present it as no cost. Well, there's cost. It's just rolled in. It's not out of pocket. And you don't want to set yourself up in a position to where if you plan on selling the home in a year or two, you're upside down and you can't sell it because you refinanced. And so you really have to check to see what's the difference in rate, how much are you going to add to your loan to do that, and what's the recoup time on that to make sure that it's worthwhile.
Right. Mm-hmm. And the recoup time, I'll expand on that.
Sure.
Right. If somebody's going to stay, and that's, I'm throwing out stats, I'm sorry, but
no.
The average person is saying they're staying in their house 15 years. Mm-hmm. Now, the average person staying in their house about 5 to 7 years.
Correct.
Right. It was compressed a few years ago. Everything's kind of expanding on things, but if you're staying in that house, to your point, right? If I'm saving myself $100 a month and it costs me $3,000 to refinance, right, that comes out to 30 months,
right?
So if I'm staying
2.5 years,
so if I'm staying in that house, if I'm only staying in that house a year,
right,
I just threw $1,500 away.
Correct. But they don't tell you that. Some do. We've got a lot of good local lenders here that do.
Got a lot of them, but it's just read through that and say, okay, what does that look like? Mm-hmm. Because those are pieces that you're winning, you're losing so slow. Sometimes you think you're winning.
Correct.
And that doesn't just pertain to this conversation. That pertains to everything, right? So
sure.
So do your math there, but yeah,
they just really need to do to me. Like you can do a VA streamline refinance with a 0.5 point difference in interest rate. But to me, it's not a 0.5 point difference is not worth the cost that it costs to, depending on the time of year and other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, they definitely need to check around before they decide on actually refinancing. Don't just jump on it.
All right. And I'll end it here.
Okay. What's
one piece of advice that you can give, more so than what you've already had, kind of wrap it up around, for buyers on their home buying journey?
Probably just to be patient. I think that a lot of buyers right now are just inundated with information, right? They're online and it's easily accessible, and everything online is true, right?
Everything online is 100% true.
But I think that they need to have a realtor that they trust, right? So when they're working with you, know that the market is tough, and be patient with that, because what we're seeing a lot of is clients are feeling that struggle, and so they're jumping around. They're going online, find other houses, and talking to a bunch of other people and getting a bunch of different stories, and so it just adds confusion to it. I think they should find who they work with well, so work with you and your team. And be patient and know that when the right house comes along, it'll work out, and that's probably the best thing they can do. Plus, don't get any new debt while you're doing it. And again, check your financing options well too. But other than that, not to give up hope that there's plenty of people buying, there's plenty of people selling.
Numbers show it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and they too can become a homeowner.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you for your time today, and we look forward to many more conversations.
All right.
with you.